amazing to see so many of you in the room this afternoon. For those of you who don't know me or haven't met me, I'm Melinda Salento, the CEO of CEDA, the Committee for Economic Development of Australia. Rafidi, thank you so much for your warm welcome to country and for sharing tradition and song with us. What a wonderful way to start our proceedings, and thank you from me. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners as well, the Turrbal and Yagara people, and pay my respects to elders past and present in the spirit of reconciliation, and thank you for all that you do in the spirit of reconciliation as well, Rafidi. It is absolutely a great pleasure to have you here today for what I think is going to be a really important conversation. I would like to, of course, give special welcome to the Premier, the Honourable David Crisafulli, for joining us today. Walking in with the Premier, gosh, there are a lot of people interested in hearing from you and obviously enjoying being in the room with you, so welcome on behalf of CEDA. Can I also welcome those representatives of our sponsors today and thank them for their support for this event. You'll hear this often at CEDA events, but it does deserve repeating that we can't pull these types of events together and do the work that we do without the tremendous support of our members and sponsors. So can I acknowledge today's sponsors, our major sponsors, Siemens. Siemens have actually been members of CEDA's, members of ours for 40 years now. Which is just a good example of the sorts of relationships that we have that really stand the test of time. The University of Queensland, also a major sponsor, have been members for nearly 10 years, and supporting sponsors Colin Biggers and Paisley and Folk. A call out to Folk as well. This is the first time sponsoring the State of the State, so it's very nice to have you with us. There are plenty of dignitaries in the room. Can I acknowledge and welcome Queensland Treasurer David Yanetsky, Deputy Premier Jared Blagey, and the state members for Redlands, Redcliffe and Palmerston. There are also plenty of other dignitaries in the room. I apologise for not naming you, but it is absolutely a full house. We've also got members of our State Advisory Council, Kat Stapleton, Clint O'Brien, Kerry McGowan, Rob Fox, Bruce Hafley and Ben Lyons. They really do all that they can to connect us to the economy and to the businesses and organisations in Queensland, and we greatly value their advice and support for all of the work that we do. It's great to be in Brisbane. I'm not from Brisbane. I always love coming up here for these really, really big conversations. There is so much happening in this city and in this state that is relevant not only to Queensland but also to all of Australia. As we embark on important policy conversations around the country as part of our Progress 2050 agenda, we are really focused on how we can seriously lift competitiveness and dynamism for our businesses, how we can improve investment and the environment for investment and the efficiency of our economy, and more broadly and importantly, how we can make sure that a strong economy connects to everyone in it through a strong social compact and the support and opportunities that we create for everyone in the community. It is really important that we understand what's going on here in Queensland, that we understand the priorities of the government and the perspectives of all of our members here, and today is a great opportunity to do just that. I look forward to what I'm sure is going to be a really interesting and engaging presentation from the Premier, but also, of course, the question and answer that we'll have afterwards. I'd like to invite all of you to participate in that conversation. You can do that via the Pigeonhole app that we have. Access details will be on the screen, but you can also access that through the QR codes on your table. If you're inclined to be on social media, we'd love that too. Please tag us, CEDA_news, on X or Instagram. I probably should have said that the passcode for Pigeonhole is state QLD, as it's on the screen. I'm pretty sure we've got plenty of media in the audience. Thank you so much for being with us today. We always love it when you join us to take the insights and things that you hear from our events to a wider audience. You can also, through the QR codes, find out who else is in the room and connect with them. But as always, if you're on your phone for any of these activities, please make sure it's turned to silent. Now, proceedings for the day. Shortly, Professor Deborah Terry will introduce the Premier. He will then provide his address, after which we will have lunch, and then we'll have a question and answer. And then Dr. Brett Watson from Siemens is going to deliver a vote of thanks. The Premier is going to exit stage at that point, and I will wrap up proceedings and have everyone on their way by 2 p.m. promptly. So that's it from me for now. I now invite Professor Terry onto stage to introduce the Premier. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Melinda. I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. At the University of Queensland, we're delighted to co-sponsor today's State of the State address by the Premier. And so I'd like to begin by officially acknowledging the Premier, the Honourable David Crisafulli, MP, as well as his parliamentary colleagues and the many distinguished guests who have joined us here today. I recently had the great pleasure of joining the Premier on a trip to India, along with my counterparts from QUT and Griffith University. This visit coincided with the launch of the Queensland-India Trade and Investment Strategy, and it was a good reminder of what can be achieved when government and universities work together, whether that be by leveraging our international links, as in the case of India, to boost trade, attract investment and foster partnerships, or by helping to produce and progress innovations that have the potential to drive economic growth and productivity. Queensland universities are some of our longest standing and strongest institutions, and we're uniquely positioned to play a collaborative role in our state's future success. In its 2025 Productivity Bulletin, the Productivity Commission identified that growth in multi-factor productivity, that is, how labour and capital combine to produce economic outputs, requires two key ingredients. New ideas need to be discovered, and these new ideas need to be applied or used. Both of these ingredients are readily available at universities. Innovation is what we do, or to put it another way, generating new ideas and helping to apply them is our bread and butter. And there is no better recent example of this than global healthcare company Sanofi's landmark acquisition of Vice Bio, a company utilising molecular clamp technology developed at UQ to help fast-track new generation vaccines. This acquisition, announced in July, is the largest ever deal involving a company that's commercialising intellectual property from an Australian university. It's significant because it's the story of a university-born idea, but it's also the product of the goal of making Queensland a global leader in biomedical research and innovation, a goal that has led to the expansion of expertise and infrastructure across southeast Queensland over the last couple of decades. One particularly exciting example is the rapidly growing Boggo Road Innovation Precinct, which will strengthen the critically important tripartite relationship between universities, government and industry. Within this precinct, the soon-to-be completed entry building, a collaboration between UQ, QUT, Metro South, Mater Research Institute and the state government, will be Australia's first biomedical manufacturing facility dedicated to scaling up biotech startups. Other examples include projects being funded through the South East Queensland Innovation Economy Fund, such as Griffith University's Health and Advanced Technology Research and Innovation Centre, an initiative that will create a vibrant interface on the Gold Coast to support industry-led research translation. And UQ's Queensland Animal Science Innovation Hub at our Gatton campus, a place where animal producers, farmers and industry will trial, scale and commercialise new farming and biosecurity innovations. Importantly though, we're not just contributing here in the southeast. We're also working to support our regional communities and contribute to their success. By collaborating with our regional university partners and the local hospital and health services, trainee doctors are now able to do the entirety of their training within their region. This is leading to better health outcomes for Queenslanders living outside metro areas, creating jobs and boosting local economies. With 2032 on the horizon, we have a rare opportunity to continue to accelerate our state's growth and development, something I'm sure the Premier will focus on shortly. From a university's perspective, I speak for UQ and our other Queensland universities when I say that we stand ready and willing to partner with government and industry to deliver the innovation, capabilities and talent to help get the job done. Because if we continue to work effectively together, who knows what kind of life-changing, productivity-boosting advancements will come out of our state in the decades to come. And on that note, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Premier of Queensland, the Honourable David Crisafulli, MP, to deliver the 2025 State of the State Address. Thank you.
Vice-Chancellor, thank you very much. I will touch on that trade delegation in a moment, but I have to make the observation. We had the three Vice-Chancellors from Queensland's three largest universities, and all of them went into one room and were on Team Queensland driving hard. They put their individual brands to one side just to grow the opportunity for international students. And find me another state where that could happen, and it shows the kind of people who make up our higher education sector. I'm very, very grateful. Melinda, thank you very much for the opportunity. To Rafidi, this is the second time I've shared a stage with her. We got the great opportunity to acknowledge the South Sea Islander community in Parliament. She gave us a wonderful welcome. To the Deputy Premier, the Treasurer, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today I provide an update on what your Queensland Government has been doing, and I want to outline what lies ahead in the golden opportunity that awaits this state. I want to touch on the topic, we are open for business, and I want to talk about the relationship that the government seeks to build with you and indeed other jurisdictions. But before we look to the future, I do briefly want to touch on the past, and I want to talk about the things we said that we would do and why they are important to the state and for everyone who lives here. Safety where you live, health services when you need them, respect for your money, a place to call home, a government that works for you. We went to the election with a plan that centred around these things, and it centred around making life better for everyday Queenslanders. On the next day after the election, we went to work, and we went to work on these things. In those briefings, we spoke and listened to the facts and the figures on the youth crime crisis, on the health crisis, on the cost of living crisis, on the housing crisis. And while every Queenslander knew about these issues, it was confronting as we lifted the curtain to find what was underneath. The youth crime crisis was running rampant across Queensland. The health system was buckling with waiting lists larger than we'd ever seen before. The out-of-control price of the housing market made the Great Australian Dream a fantasy, and the cost of living crisis saw the largest energy price rises ever in the country here in Queensland. But Queenslanders didn't elect us to identify problems. They elected us to deliver the solution, and that is what our mantra is, delivering for Queensland. It's a question I ask myself every day. What can I do today to make life better for Queenslanders tomorrow? And I want to look and touch on some of the things that we have delivered and then look to the future. Through the efforts of Attorney General Frecklington and Youth Justice Minister Gerber, we've passed the Making Queensland Safer laws. Adult crime, adult time is now law in Queensland, just as we promised. This is just one of the key steps to reversing a 10-year process of weakening laws, and we are reinstalling consequences for action. But we're also investing very heavily in early intervention and rehabilitation. And I firmly believe in that, and I'll never give up on young Queenslanders. And I want to give them every chance to turn their life around. We have a long way to go, but this approach is making inroads. Today, for the first time, I'm releasing figures from the Department of Youth Justice and Victim Support on finalised proven offences. These are the finalised cases of convicted youth offenders through our court system. In the first half of this year, finalised proven offences dropped nearly 5,000, from 24,191 to 19,243. That equates to a 20% drop. When it comes to offences covered under adult time, adult crime legislation, the result is larger, a staggering 31% drop. Well before the election, we said that adult crime, adult time would send a strong message to young people thinking of offending, and the data proves that they have heard this message. I want to break that down a little further and go into those categories that are dominated by young offenders. Serious assault is down 4%, stolen cars are down 38%, break and enters are down 25%. We have a long way to go, but we are on the right track. In conjunction with the new laws, we are spending a great deal of time targeting the serious repeat offenders. Today, I can announce our state flying squad has just made its 1,000th arrest, resulting in 2,965 charges. The impact? Serious repeat offender numbers are down 17%. Now, I'm not going to suggest the youth crime crisis is over, far from it, but it does show that we are on the right track, and it points to the one number that matters, and that is victim numbers. And I spoke about this before the campaign, fewer victims of crime. Since the introduction of these laws, victims of crime in the first 6 months of the year in real terms are down 5.7%. We said there'd be fewer victims, and there are. Police Minister Dan Purdy has delivered more police on the beat in Queensland since we came to government, 350 more in fact, and that's double what was achieved in the entirety of the last term. We're delivering real change where it matters for people. Take the improvements Tim Nichols is making to our state's health system. The number of people languishing on the elective surgery waitlist had more than doubled over a decade. We promised to stabilise that number by this Christmas, but we have done a lot better than that. Thanks to our targeted investment, the number of people waiting for their surgery has fallen across 6 months by the largest ever margin, with a drop of over 6,000 people. That's 10%. That means Queenslanders waiting to get a hip replacement, their cataract, a colonoscopy, their child's ear surgery sooner. It's literally changing and saving people's lives. Before the election, we said it would take time to turn around ambulance ramping from the worst in the nation we inherited, and it will. But the beds in our hospital rescue plan are coming, and we remain resolute on delivering on our 4-year target. We're tackling the rising cost of living, and as a start, the Treasurer has axed 2 taxes. Not 1, 2. Firstly, the patients tax, which was a tax to see your GP, which was due to come in on the 1st of July, and the second, a tax on young first home buyers building or buying a new home. We've scrapped it. They won't pay 1 cent of stamp duty on any new purchase. We've also moved to ensure our existing energy generation assets are kept in good, safe working order while we roll out our plan for investment in gas and renewable generation and pumped hydro storage. More on that from the Treasurer in the weeks ahead. On housing, our government, through the Deputy Premier Blay, has funded infrastructure projects across the length and breadth of the state to open up new housing developments. $500 million has now been provided to local councils to drive new supply into a market which had been left very stagnant. Housing Minister Sam O'Connor has reinvigorated social and community housing. Good societies are compassionate societies, and every Queenslander deserves a chance to have a roof over their head. It's projects like these that mean our kids and our grandkids have a place to call home and have an opportunity one day to own a home. The safety of our children has been a priority as we deliver a robust blue card system and a new reportable conduct scheme. Minister Langbrook is delivering a fully funded early childhood regulator to keep our kids safe. Minister Cam fought and secured a commission of inquiry for the broken child safety system. These are critical reforms that are focused on the most critical job of Queensland, and that is keeping kids safe. As a state, we are also delivering the DNA lab restoration, a child sex offender register to be known as Daniel's Law, the Prosper 2050 agriculture strategy, the Destination 2045 tourism strategy, special schools for our education sector, delivering water security and home ownership for Indigenous communities, faster approvals for mining projects, and I'll touch on that shortly. None of this is possible without a well-resourced, secure and empowered public service. I've seen the failing in recent decades when a public service doesn't feel secure at its tenure or free to give fearless and frank advice. I am driving my ministers to change that culture. We've also got the Olympics and Paralympics back on track with a world-class stadium for Brisbane, faster rail to the Gold Coast, where you will watch hockey. I'm joined by the Mayor, Tom Tate. Hello, Mayor. And a revamp of the Maroochydore CBD and the game-changing Wave Transformation Project. But the Games are about more than the southeast of our state, and that's why we've made them about all of Queensland, and we've been humbled by the way Queenslanders have embraced our plan right across the state. Our focus will always be delivering the change needed to make this state a better place to live, a place where young people can aspire to own their own home, a place where people feel safe in their community, a place where we all have access to health services when we need them, where we need them, and a place where business can flourish. The LNP is the party of small and family business. It's in our DNA, it's what we believe. And a successful business community can only thrive when the whole community is thriving. And this is what our reforms are focused on, putting in place structures for Queenslanders to thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard a lot from our government and that Queensland is open for business, and we are. This should not be misconstrued as a chance for corporations to transfer their liabilities and the business downside to Queensland and to the Queensland government. What open for business means is putting in place the structures to make sure there is an environment where business can thrive, an environment where productivity increases, where red tape is reduced, where approvals are streamlined, where government projects are delivered on time and on budget, where government procures on the basis of delivering value for all of the state. We have reinstated the Productivity Commission, and they will work on the issues that have plagued the state for the last decade. Their first task is to look at the construction industry, and there has been an interim report already, and it makes for sober reading. It found since 2018, plummeting productivity costs the state the opportunity to deliver an additional 77,000 homes. Think about that for a second. That's tens of thousands of Queenslanders without the opportunity for a roof over their head because of a lack of productivity. Shockingly, productivity in the state's construction industry is only 5% above 1994 levels. We need to do better than this, and we're going to. We have taken action to put an end to the lawless, misogynistic and violent environment that had enveloped our construction industry and smothered productivity in Queensland by pausing BPIC and calling a commission of inquiry into the CFMEU. Across the resources sector, Minister Last has worked to streamline approvals for new mines and has established the Queensland Resources Cabinet Subcommittee. In our first few months, we have approved 30 new resource projects, that's 30, some of which have been waiting over a decade on a minister's desk. There's been 11 mining lease renewals approved. Coronado's Curragh expansion. Bravis is expanding the job-generating Carmichael mine, which could unlock $500 million in additional investment and create 600 Queensland coal jobs. That's what being open for business can deliver. And let me say, there's more to come in that space too. Along with unlocking large swathes of land for housing by providing funds towards critical infrastructure, the Deputy Premier has worked with Economic Development Queensland to refocus their efforts on becoming the exemplar of approving authorities rather than the laggard. We are also empowering EDQ to unashamedly seek opportunities to get projects off the ground right across the state. We are also working with utilities to improve their performance when it comes to facilitating projects. There are too many stories of projects facing unnecessary delays, being caught up in those different processes between different utilities. We must place customer service at the centre of everything we do as a state government. This is by no means an exhaustive list of the initiatives we are taking to open up the state for investment, but it is a good signal to the business community of where our philosophy lies when it comes to opening up the state for business, creating an environment where you can thrive and be successful on your merits without being held back by needless productivity handbrakes. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to what we are looking for in people and companies to invest and do business in Queensland. We are looking for partners who want to join with us to build a state that delivers for Queensland. We are looking for companies that want to become part of the fabric of who we are as a state, partners who will share in the good times, partners who will remain steadfast in the challenging times. We're not interested in fair weather friends who come running for the dollars when things are good and then abandon Queenslanders in the name of shareholder profits when the going gets tough. Queensland is open for business. We're open for partners who want to invest for the future across all sectors, and we all benefit with that. Earlier this month, I led that trade delegation the Vice-Chancellor spoke of. I did so to open up opportunities for our region and our future. The higher education sector, representatives from a range of industries. I was proud to lead Team Queensland. I'm confident Queensland will play host to the Quad in the near future. I also believe visits like this don't just unlock economic opportunities, but social ones as well. We should be proud of the contribution that migrants make to our community, and we should continue to plan to welcome that growth for the years and the decades ahead. And for our part, we'll deliver the opportunities for businesses to be successful, to become partners who are in it for the long haul. And together we can deliver for Queensland and for Queenslanders. And that's the partners we want for our state. Delivering means working across jurisdictions and political colours. And I hope I've shown the benefit of when a state government puts down the politically charged rhetoric, the childish name-calling at rallies, and instead focuses on outcomes. Within 3 months, the Roads Minister, Mickelberg, was able to secure an 80-20 funding deal from the federal government on the Bruce Highway. We were told that was impossible. I personally worked with the Prime Minister on this, as well as the deal to secure the largest ever funding injection for public education in Queensland history. The best deal of any state or territory in the country, including jurisdictions with the same political colouring as the Albanese government. And now our next challenge is the role government plays in ensuring the sovereign manufacturing capability that a nation needs. The Mount Isa copper smelter is a topical reminder of this importance. I've been very clear about the need for both levels of government to provide a business environment and the confidence to ensure Glencore remains a partner in Queensland. It was the Queensland government that first came forward with an offer in a bid to show Canberra the importance of the ongoing operation of the smelter, but also to get Glencore to the table. Ensuring the viability of the smelter isn't just important for one company and one asset. It has ramifications right throughout North and Northwest Queensland. The production of fertiliser, future copper mines, the Copper String project, a refinery in Townsville, they're all pivotal. Thousands of families rely on this future. Today we're joined by the Mayor of Mount Isa, Peter McRae. She's been a long-term friend of mine and a great friend of Mount Isa. I've told her we will leave nothing in the tank to get this deal done. But it can't be one-way traffic. And Glencore needs to be prepared to amend their business model and commit to investing in the asset to ensure the continuity of business, whoever may run it in the future. It's a partnership. It's a two-way street. A year ago, Queenslanders voted for a fresh start. They voted for change on the crises that have been 10 years in the making: youth crime, health, housing, cost of living. There must be the focus of our government, and it remains the focus of our government. We can and we will deliver that fresh start, but it's going to take time. With an inherited budget in dire straits, these are our priorities. This is where we will focus our efforts and our funding. But it will be through productivity, not austerity, that Queensland reaches its potential. I finish on this point. I do not believe government is the font of all knowledge. When I say we are open for business, it also means we are open to suggestions on how we can improve the investment environment here in Queensland. While we will not break our election commitments, we're open-minded on what form those improvements take for all sectors. I say this to our new partners, and I hope to be making some announcements soon about new partners. But I also say this to our long-term partners who have been the victim of opaque and significant changes in their industry, in policy, in regulation, in taxation. Work with us as we deliver that certainty. The path to prosperity for Queensland is prioritising the needs of Queenslanders: safety, housing, health, putting food on their table. I invite you all to join on that path together, and together we will deliver for Queensland. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You run a well-oiled machine.
Some things I would take, baby, nothing falls.
Thank you, ladies. There we go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is always the most unenviable part of these events, is trying to get everyone's attention, having enjoyed a fantastic speech and good table conversations. But we're back here for the Q&A part of the event. The audience will not be surprised to know that I've got plenty of questions rolling in. Now I'm just going to look for my team and ask them also. I think we're doing questions from the room as well. Is that a thumbs up, Tess? Yes, thank you. So it's always great to have questions on the Pigeonhole app, but also if you're in the room and you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and someone from the team will bring a microphone to you. And then, as is the usual course for business at these events, if you could introduce yourself, questions, not statements, please, and we'll take it from there. But I am going to get started with the questions that are sort of rolling through. If you haven't put a question in and you want to, please do. And also, you can vote on other people's questions. So anything that's on the top of your mind, I get to see coming through here. Premier, I had some questions for you, but I don't need them. So I'm going to jump straight in to the questions that we've got here. For the audience, I try to do this kind of in order of what you're saying, but sometimes I'll string a few questions together, so hopefully you'll get the gist of that. Straight out of the bat, actually, one of the most popular questions is focusing on the issue of education. Obviously, Professor Terry sort of spoke about the importance of education in driving productivity, really important in driving participation. The question we've got here is what is the government doing to increase aspiration and participation in higher education, university and TAFE, and also particularly given that Queensland secondary school completions are below those in other states, and what are you doing about improving those outcomes?
Well, it starts with valuing education right through, and one of the things that we're really committed to is getting kids active and engaged early into the education system. And I know that can be done through a myriad of reasons, but we're actually even starting to engage in things like health and wellbeing early on in a child's journey. One of the things which we announced in the budget, which sounded, it sounded like a cost of living relief because that's how it was targeted, but the whole idea about the back to school payment wasn't just about helping parents get money to buy books for kids, but it's also forming the connection with the school. I want schools to be front and centre in what people are doing and how they view the world, which is why we put so much store in getting that education deal. Now, if we can do that, we can get kids through. We do have to lift our NAPLAN results and not where we want them to be at the moment. And then we have to show the value of a higher education. I was just speaking to the Vice-Chancellor about it now, and that's everything from the mix about what a career, where it can take you, but also the support for where a young person can be housed to go to that university. They need to make those sacrifices to be able to do it. It's transport to get there. It's all the way through, and we have to get back to a time where people see a value in taking that long-term punt to go and study. I'm a kid from country Queensland. It was a massive decision for me. I really, taking the leap to go to a university, it was a big sliding door moment, but it wasn't an easy one for me because it was very daunting. And we have to do all we can to show a pathway to young people that's important. In the same way that it's important for them to go and get a trade and build a building or serve people in the hospitality sector. We need to get people active and productive and engaged, and if you can show a pathway, I think people will follow it.
I was interested to hear some research that came out just yesterday that's looking at high school completion rates around the country, and particularly focusing on young men and boys and those completion rates dropping. And I think I'm using this as sort of a link into one of the questions that's been asked about productivity improvements in education. This issue about supporting TAFE, which can be important in moving into trades, but also particularly as we look forward to a tech-enabled and an AI future, where the skills that you build, those future-ready skills that universities are building as well, how are you thinking about the balance between those two issues and the support that you provide for universities for those future skills? There's a sense in the question being asked here that there's a pretty heavy vet-only focus.
But it's earning or learning, and I know it shouldn't be a case that if a young person chooses to leave school to pursue a trade or a full-time job that they feel empowered with, we shouldn't moan about that. That's a choice, and they should have the right to make that choice. But likewise, if somebody feels that they can embark on a tertiary education, they should be encouraged to do so. We need to do all we can. But in the end, it's about productivity. Not everybody can do a trade, not everybody can go to university, but we just have to make sure that the choice is put in the individual's hands. I never lament or get concerned if somebody is leaving the education sector because they want to pursue a career that means something to them. We shouldn't be concerned by that. That's an opportunity for them to get into the workforce earlier, and we should celebrate that. But likewise, if somebody finishes their high school journey and they get to year 12, we should do all we can to make sure that they don't just see it through the prism of I'm finished now, I shouldn't be studying anymore. The life's journey of education should always continue. And we are investing in the likes of TAFE, but I think that continues the learning journey. I've got an uncle who's done very well for himself. He's a doctor of engineering and it's taken him across the globe. He started life as a fitter and turner, but as part of doing that, it gave him an education. He realised he was quite clever. He finished his trade and then he began study at university remotely, and today he's been incredibly successful. We should celebrate those stories and just give the pathway for that to occur.
I'm going to have to remind myself to just make sure I scan the big room. If you've got any questions, please put your hands up. Premier, you talked about the importance of skills and immigration and being open for immigration and recognising the contribution there. Annie Lawrence, thank you for including your name in the question, has got a question for you on the topic of talent attraction and retention, and is really keen to understand, in her words, how we address the brain drain and attract back to Queensland the best and the brightest. And if I could throw an add-on, just interested in a few more words about your attitude to immigration broadly and skilled migration and what your priorities are there.
Well, let's address the first bit first. There's an easy way, and that is people need to be able to work to their skill level, and increasingly they're not, and they feel very frustrated about that. People have qualifications, and in many cases, not because of a lack of competency, but a lack of processes. They aren't able to come over and work at that standard. And that's disappointing, and we should do all we can, wherever it's safe to do so, to enable people to come to the country and to be at their most productive. But on the broader issue, I addressed it in my speech, and I've addressed it countless opportunities, and I continue to do so. The failure of governments to plan and properly deliver infrastructure should not be used as a justification for people closing the door on multiculturalism and migration. And it's got to be called out. And there's an element of people who have used that, and it's a very valid concern, by the way. People feel as though they'll never be able to own a home, they're stuck in traffic, or their hospitals are under pressure. They have every reason to be concerned about a lack of planning. But you can't use that as a stalking horse for people who have a strong desire to talk down to people who want to come to this country, and I just won't do it, and I won't participate in it. And at times that, means that I'm subject to some pretty intense criticism online, but that's okay. They're my values, they're my beliefs. They're the same thing that my late grandfather had levelled against him, and indeed my dad did. And within one generation, my late grandfather, who came here as a manual worker in the cane fields, his son was able to buy a farm and do well. That's my dad. And his son was able to get an education. And that all happened in a short period of time. And I love hopping in a cab and I ask the driver, or if I'm somewhere where there's a laborious job, and I ask the person, "Oh, g'day mate, how long have you been in the country for?" And you'll get 9 or 10 years, and they're just pretty matter of fact in the way they talk. And then I ask them about their kids. I say, "Do you have kids?" And their face lights up, and I ask them what their kids are doing. And often it'll be, "Oh, my daughter's studying engineering and my son's doing medicine," or vice versa. And you can see the pride in their eyes. And that's my story only a generation before. And I just think we're so much better because of it, and we should celebrate it. That's not an excuse for governments not to build things and properly plan. And this state knows better than any what happens when that doesn't occur. Hospitals that are full, roads that blow out in cost and aren't properly planned, and crime running out of control. But none of that should be used as a justification as to why we shouldn't embrace the opportunity for people to come here in a planned and a controlled way and enrich the multicultural story that is Queensland.
Speaking of long-term planning, the question that's brought up the top is around the federal government's 2035 climate targets. And there's a couple of questions in here that sort of link back to that. One is really looking for your thoughts on net zero and targets there, but also how the federal government's targets are going to be achieved in the context of Queensland's coal and gas exports, and how are you reconciling those?
Well, a couple of things. You asked me the first, people know my view and they know where we're going to 2050, and you know how important it is for us to play a contribution on the global stage, but also to send the message that we're open for investment in new technology, and I mentioned that today. So we've got an emissions target, and we're going to get there, and I have every confidence. In terms of the journey to get there, well, David is a couple of weeks away, the Treasurer and Energy Minister, from handing down the roadmap, and I'll just give you a sample of what it looks like. It looks like a maintenance guarantee to make sure that our existing assets, and that's predominantly coal-fired power generation, but we've also got a little bit of hydro and other assets. We are going to invest in them because they aren't going to be needed for longer. There is an inevitability on that. And those assets are the youngest fleet in the country, they're the cleanest fleet in the country, and we should sweat that asset. There's no doubt about that. Then there's the interim, what is needed in the decade and beyond, and we believe gas has a role to play in that, so he'll be talking a little bit more about what that looks like to firm up that capability. But then there's the renewable space, and there's a massive opportunity for renewables. And what the Deputy Premier has done in the planning framework is exactly what happened in the gas industry 12, 13 years ago, when there were a few rogues in the industry and they were destroying the goodwill and just running rampant. And communities were saying, no more, we don't want this. Now, instead of listening to that, we said, no, we'll put in place a framework to make sure that those communities aren't treated like doormats. And on the back of that, there was calm and considered investment in the gas industry, and you wouldn't find a community now that doesn't acknowledge that that's a golden opportunity. The same thing's happening in the renewable space. There's a framework that's been put in place where those providers, and the vast majority of them are good, credible companies, know where they need to go, know where we're investing in assets. David will talk about the copper string from Townsville out to Mount Isa. There are golden opportunities, and we just want it to be in areas that is sympathetic and enables that investment to be done at a place where it's being welcomed. And there are a myriad of those opportunities. We then look at pumped hydro, and look, many of you would have been in the room when, 3 or 4 years ago, the discussion on what was then a several billion-dollar pumped hydro plan, what was called Pioneer Burdekin Pumped Hydro Plan. On the first day in government, we got the true cost, which was well north of $30 billion, and it was never going to be built. It was fanciful. So we've taken a more measured approach, and that is working with the private sector to bring on smaller, affordable, more manageable pumped hydro. But pumped hydro is such an important concept because you need to create the storage capacity for the renewables that are coming into the system. So it's not, we don't take this approach, and I've listened to the debates in Canberra, I've listened to both sides screaming and yelling at each other. We don't get caught up in that. We're not a government full of ideologues. We believe in things that make sense. It makes sense to make sure that we sweat those existing power assets we have, it makes sense to welcome renewable energy and firm it up, and we'll just do that in a calm and considered way, and on the back of that, we will reduce our emissions and we'll get to where we need to be.
You mentioned in your speech, and obviously there's been a lot of talk about this, very much open for business. If you look around the country, we are squarely focused at CEDA on, what do we need to do to lift investment around the country, because the performance is not where it needs to be. You spoke about some of the things that you've got on your mind. Did you want to say anything more about, where is the opportunity for deregulation? Where is the opportunity to provide that confidence for people to invest, including in the energy transition here in Queensland?
Well, it's the P word, it's productivity, and we don't have it at the moment as a nation. And the last quarter reported data from about a year ago, it does predate the change in government, but the lost capital, the strike capital of the country was not Melbourne, where you're from, it was Queensland. And that troubles me deeply. I mentioned the CFMEU in the speech, and I want an environment where workers are well paid, and I want them to be safe on job sites, and we want productivity to return, and we want contracts to be honoured and adhered to. And if we do that, and if there's fiscal discipline, and if we set a framework that ministers are held accountable, and likewise companies, same as what I said, open for business, good partners, we share in wins and we share in losses when we build things. If we do that, I do believe that we can get that sense that is back, that things, that we're open for business and this is a good place to invest. One of the things that we've done, and the three of us who are here today, we've quietly gone into boardrooms and spoken to companies that have walked away from Queensland because of predominantly a fear in that industrial relations framework, and we've said, no, it's a different environment. We're determined to make sure productivity returns, and those things you've experienced in the past won't be there. So I am confident that we have to do that, because it's 7 years until the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and do we have time? Yes, the answer is we do, but we got to really hook in. And I'm confident we'll get it done. And it's not just about the games; it's about that environment where people are looking at Queensland at the moment. And we've gone from a smaller player to a genuine force in the state, and and that will pay dividends for us.
I mean, I think it's the Olympics and Paralympics is really interesting, because those opportunities present as a chance to do things differently as well. And to look for innovation that you might not otherwise achieve. So good luck with that. There's a question here which I think is really directly related to this around transport infrastructure, and it's absolutely critical for productivity, well-being, how citizens enjoy and experience their lives. What is the plan that you have on connected regions, train to regional hubs? The mention here about delayed inland rail and connectivity to Toowoomba. This is going to be a little bit more to you than me in Melbourne, but you want to update us on that?
Well, I'll start with the coast, and then I'll talk about inland rail. So, to and from the Gold and the Sunshine Coast, that remains our biggest challenge, and we've got to do something about it. So the Logan to Gold Coast faster rail project was an unmitigated mess. That's been sorted out, contract's been let, and work's well and truly underway, and that's going to be a really important project to link people from the GC to Brisbane. We also have to get the road right, and at the moment it's a Russian roulette going to and from both directions, both times a day. So we're working on trying to make the Coomera connector a genuine option for a second motorway, which is something we're keenly doing, and we are making sure in parallel that we've got the rail project. Likewise, to the north, fixing some of the pinch points, intersections on the Bruce Highway, and then what we're calling the Wave, which is heavy passenger rail linking to a metro system all the way through to the airport. So we're working that's north and south from the capital. The spine of the highway, which is the Bruce Highway, which is a disastrous road I mentioned in my speech, we spoke about before the campaign, and we did our costings on 80-20. We were mocked and derided. Why, it's a 50-50 arrangement. Why would you say 80-20? I said because it's a federal road, and I have every faith that we can negotiate with the federal government with that. And we come under a lot of scrutiny for that, and well, it turns out it was completely unjustified. My approach with Canberra, and many people in this room have heard me speak a lot, I'm neither cheerleader nor antagonist for the government, whatever its political colour. And I was prepared to make some politically difficult conversations with the former Morrison government when I was opposition leader, and likewise I've been prepared to praise and condemn the Albanese government and vice versa. And I think people see the benefit in that. There's no point everything's always black and white. Team red is always great and team blue is always bad, or vice versa based on political colour. It doesn't do any favours. By doing that, we got that 80-20 funding for the Bruce Highway, and work is rolling out now. And a road which is life and death. 42 people lost their life on that road last calendar year. So it's an important road. So that's also part of the mix. And you mentioned Inland Rail. There's a project that's been driven out of Canberra. It desperately needs someone to love it and drive it and own it at a federal level. It's a great project. It's just transcended a lot of governments and a lot of change, and it just hasn't found a true champion to drive it to its full potential.
Well, thank you, Premier. I knew we were going to run out of time very quickly. There are just lots and lots of questions still here. Just to give you a flavour of them, while Brett Watson from Siemens is coming up to the stage with a vote of thanks, there's obviously really keen interest in your approach to arts, culture and creativity and how that fits into sort of growth and economic development, and also some questions in here around prevention on the crime front and how we help particularly young kids make sure they stay out of that environment. So just for the heads up, and a few questions from the media. But Brett, please hop on.
Can I answer it in 45 seconds or no?
Well, I think we're working to your deadlines. Brett, thank you very much.
Thank you, Melinda, and thank you, Premier, for an insightful overview of the successes, challenges and aspirational plans that your government has for Queensland. It's a privilege to conduct the vote of thanks at this important CEDA forum. Siemens has been involved with CEDA for 40 years, as was announced at the beginning, and we value this long-standing membership of this important independent think tank. CEDA's purpose, which is to achieve sustainable, long-term prosperity for all Australians, certainly fits with the themes from your speech today, Premier. In fact, judging from today's audience of almost 700 people, we all feel a vested interest in the sustainable long-term prosperity of the state. I want to begin my vote of thanks with a quote from you that resonated with me. In 1960, my grandfather Frank took a leap of faith and left his homeland of Italy for North Queensland. He saw Queensland as a land of opportunity. Over 60 years later, my family still believes Queensland is a land of opportunity. Our government is working hard to ensure these opportunities continue today. I can really relate to this story and sentiment about opportunity as well. My parents moved to Queensland in 1972 and built a life of opportunity that set a compelling example for me. In 2005, myself and a couple of other innovators saw an opportunity to create the world's fastest and most compact circuit breaker for rural power lines. We called it Fuse Saver, and it greatly improves the reliability of power networks. The reason I'm sharing this story is that we started this journey by seeing an opportunity to solve a problem. Through technology, we turned that idea into a global innovation which sparked interest from Siemens, who acquired us and helped us to scale that technology to 35 countries, all manufactured from our facility in Yadala. We're now a globally relevant business. And currently, we're investigating opportunities to triple our factory size to support that export market. Queensland certainly is a land of opportunity, especially combined with technology, partnership, innovation, and the courage to have a go. Proudly, Siemens Technology is behind the scenes of many of the projects that you outlined today. Some points that particularly resonated with me: we are open for business, 30 new mines, wow. What I can also say is that Siemens has been a long-term partner for Queensland with a presence here of approximately 150 years through difficult and good times, and we're here for the future. Siemens and many other stakeholders here today will be able to contribute to the important initiatives that you've announced and support the investments. Clearly, these will be delivered through people and technology, with collaboration across industry, government and educators being critical. At Siemens, we believe that technology, including digitalisation and artificial intelligence will continue to be at the heart of Queensland and Australia's success. By accelerating technology and digitalisation, three things that will happen that will result in stronger economies, better jobs and greater sustainable outcomes for the world. Firstly, the energy transition will be smoother with fewer surprises, a topic no doubt supported by head table guest Nicola Falcon from AEMO, who are using our Siemens Advanced Grid Simulation software. Second, we will have better energy efficiency, resulting in lower cost of living, lower energy costs and lower emissions. I'm also sitting with Peter Vergas and Deborah Terry from the University of Queensland, where this is a big focus of their energy test lab. Thirdly, technology and digitalisation will drive industrial innovation, where Queensland can make greater impact on the world, such as the story of FuseSaver and many others like mine. When I look around this room, I see people who understand the link between technology, innovation, productivity and opportunity for Queensland. For example, my guest Robert Lindwall from PsiQuantum is building the world's first utility-scale quantum computers right here in Brisbane. Fantastic. Quantum computing will transform industries and help us solve complex world problems, unlocking advancements in medicine and new materials and many other topics. These are all opportunities for Queensland through technology, digitalisation and people. As we also head towards the 2032 Olympic Games, it's good to close on a sporting analogy. Based on population, Australia should rank around 53rd in the world in the medal tally. On average, we sit at about 8th, with Queenslanders highly represented. What we learn from this is we can punch above our weight, especially when we really care about something, which is what I saw today. Similarly, Australia is responsible for around 1% of the world's emissions. At Siemens, we believe that Queensland and Australia can have a much greater impact than just addressing this 1%. We call this Beyond 1%, and embrace this as an opportunity for new innovations and industries Queensland can develop and export to the world, tackling our greatest challenges, requiring levels of collaboration across business and government. We must all lean in. Queensland's rich resources, quality education, sense of mateship, and no fear mindset should enable us to lead the charge. I'd like to thank and congratulate the Premier and his team for articulating this vision for Queensland's future. Thank you, and I'd like to now hand back to Melinda to close the event.
Well, thank you, Premier, and thank you, Brett, for that vote of thanks. The Premier does need to race off, so we'll let him do that, and I'll just wrap things up formally. Can I thank our major sponsors, again, Siemens and the University of Queensland, but also our supporting sponsors, Colin Biggers and Paisley and Folk, all long-term supporters of ours and of the state of the state here in Brisbane. It's always a good opportunity for me to remind you that as popular as this event is, there's always plenty more going on here in Queensland from CEDA's perspective. And I'm really pleased to remind the audience that coming up here in Brisbane, we've got CEDA's annual AI Leadership Summit. This is an event that we've been putting on for a number of years now, and it's grown and grown and grown. And this year's program is looking absolutely exceptional. We've got international leaders and speakers from NVIDIA and OpenAI, and anyone who is looking at the papers today will see that they have just made a big announcement. We've got the Federal Minister for Industry, Innovation and Science, Senator Tim Ayres, and we've got the Queensland Minister for Customer Services and Open Data, Stephen Minikin. We'll have all sorts of interesting discovery stages and workshops and sessions for non-executive directors. So it's an exciting opportunity and one that will be in your neighbourhood in about 4 weeks. So if you don't know about that, please jump online. Because it is absolutely chock-a-block. I could go on, but I won't. I think that's about all from me. It's been a fantastic conversation. It was really great to have the Premier here to deliver his first major address I've enjoyed being up in Brisbane and meeting with a number of you throughout the day, and I look forward to being back up here for the AI Summit. If you're interested in that and our Progress 2050 agenda, which is our long-term agenda for prosperity for all Australians, jump on the website ceda.com.au, and I look forward to welcoming you to a CEDA event soon. Thank you very much.